Hi parents, carers and students of Year 11. Thanks for watching our presentation. In this, we'll be going over the senior school pathways, the options for next year, and what pathways you'll be looking at beyond next year so that you are appropriately set up. So at senior school, we have 3 senior pathways. This is different to most schools, which only offer 2, but we are introducing a 3rd pathway, which hopefully you are aware about, which we'll go over in this presentation. The first pathway, which you're all most likely aware of, is the Victorian Certificate of Education. This is the most typical and most common studied pathway at high school. This is purposefully set up for students to go to university. Students don't necessarily have to go to university if studying this pathway, but they are set up to do that. This has 5 school days. English is a compulsory subject. At the end of it, you will get an ATAR score, and you will be studying in sitting exams at the end of it. So this is just an overview about what the VCE certificate can look like. So over the years 11 and 12, as well as year 10 if you studied any year 11 units, what you need to do is achieve 16 units to achieve your certificate. So each unit is a semester per subject. So looking at this particular student has sat English units 3 and 4, that's 2 units, as well as English 1 and 2, so year 11, another 2 units, for a total of 4 units. There are additional 3-4 subjects here. They had 3 more of those for 6 units, and the same subjects at year 11 for 6 units. So here they had a grand total of 16 units. Most students will achieve more than this over their VCE. Most students will typically achieve around 22 units. So we'll exceed the necessary amount to achieve the VCE certificate. Down the bottom here, I won't mention this too much as one of the other coordinators will mention it more in depth. But we also have the Vet DSS at Dromana College for a number of vet subjects. These can also accrue units at years 11 and 12. So I'll just briefly go over this. At the end of their 2 years of VCE, they will achieve an ATAR. Now, this is a percentile rank, somewhere between 0 and 99.95. What we mean by percentile is if your child, say, achieves an ATAR of 60, it means they have beaten 60% of students across the state overall. If they achieve an ATAR of 99, it means they have beaten 99% of students. So it is simply a ranking across all students. Study scores that are scaled across the subject. So what that means is that some study scores will go up and some will go down depending on the difficulty of the subject. So the average state score is 30. At Dromana, we have a median of 32. So we're outperforming most public secondary schools. So just to touch a little bit more on scaling, here we have a number of math subjects. We've got specialist, methods, general, and foundation. So as an example, if a student achieves a study score of 30 in specialist maths, it'll get scaled up to approximately a 42. If they achieve a 30 in methods, it'll go up to, say, a 35 or 36. General will roughly stay the same. It might go down 1 or 2 points. It depends on the year. Foundation is a new subject, so we aren't aware of the scaling of that yet, but that will come out next year and will most likely be scaled down. So different subjects have different scalings. If you want to know specific subjects and their scaling, you can look it up on the VCAR website and see how each subject is affected by scaling. Just a couple of additional scaling rules here. VCAR tries to encourage the study of languages. So each language is adjusted by adding 5 to the initial scaled study score. Not necessarily it means that it's 5 added to the ATAR, but it is 5 to the study score. So the way the study scores work are each student will achieve a study score for each subject. It'll get scaled, and then they will get added up. I'll just touch on this more in the next slide. So they'll take the top 4 subjects, including English, no matter what English has to count, unless that student is studying literature. It has to be one English-based subject. And then 10% of any subject after that. So say they take methods, English, general, and physics as their top 4, and then say food studies as their 5th subject. They'll take 10% of that study score. They'll add them all up. That's called the aggregate score. And then the aggregate score gets put against every other student in the state, and they will then calculate the ATAR on that based off of their ranking. Lastly on this, study scores are just a calculation of SAC's end-of-year exams. End-of-year exam counts for the most when it comes to a study score, so it is very, very important that students try their best on an exam. Sometimes students will get disheartened by one particular SAC score and think that their study score is ruined. This is not the case. They are redeemable with an end of year exam. And some university courses will require certain subjects as their prerequisites, and they will use raw scores. So prerequisites are a required subject to get into a particular course. So if you're a child, or if you want to do engineering, you might have to do methods and get a raw score of 30 as an example. But if you want any more information on prerequisites, consult the university's websites. I'm now going to pass over to Sally O'Toole, who's going to talk more about the further learning pathway that we offer.
Hello, parents, carers, and students. I'm going to be telling you a bit about further learning, which is our newest pathway for our senior school students. It is a quite academically rigorous course for students who might want to possibly go unscored at the end of year 12. In other words, they may not need an ATAR to get into the course that they'd like to do at university, but it still gives them the option to go on to tertiary education. There are no exams with further learning. The students do, however, sit the GAT in the middle of the year, but there are no formal exams. So similar to the vocational major stream, students would do 3 days on site at school at Dromana. So that's Monday, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And on those days, they would have VCE English. They would have a maths class. This is compulsory in year 11. We do very strongly recommend it in year 12. That might be general or foundation maths. And they would also have 2 electives. As far as those electives go, there will be a list of those attached to the EdVal website that the students will have received a login for. On the Wednesday of each week, they would do 1 day at TAFE in their chosen vet course. There's about 30 vet courses that they can choose from, and there'll be a list of those attached to a compass post. And on the final day each week, on the Friday, they do structured workplace learning. They'll be doing a job, usually preferably in an industry that matches the certificate that they're doing at TAFE. So to get the successful completion of the further learning pathway, very similar to the VCE, they would need to gain 16 units over the possible 3 years if they started it in year 10, so over years 10, 11 and 12. So you'd have the 2 units of 3-4 English. That would, of course, be added to the 2 units of 1-2 English from year 11. They would have their 3 additional 1-2 subjects in year 11, and then their 3-4 subjects in year 12. So all up over year 11 and 12, they'd have a total of 16 units. Added to this then would be their vet course in year 11 for 2 units and their vet course in year 12 for an additional 2 units. So just to make it very clear, students do not receive an ATAR for the further learning pathway. They do receive a VCE certificate when they've successfully completed the 16 units. And we do strongly recommend that students continue on with their maths throughout both units 1, 2, and 3 and 4. So the students who might be really good candidates for this pathway, students who are strong in maths or whose teachers have recommended that they continue on with general or foundation maths, those who may be considering becoming an electrician, or if they're already enrolled in an SBAT with an electrician, those who want to go on and do nursing, and also some education courses, early childhood education, these sort of courses that you can get into with a folio and without an ATAR. So It is quite academically rigorous. It's not an easy option, but it is definitely a nice in between step in between VCE and Voc Major for those kids that want to keep quite a few options open. So I'll be handing over now to Ben Rolls to finish up with Vocational Major.
Hello, parents, carers, and students. The third and final pathway is the VCE Vocational Major pathway, also previously known as the VCAL pathway. This pathway is going to be completed over year 11 and 12 and is a non-ATAR pathway, meaning that they will not receive an ATAR and will not be able to go to university directly. This program will be completed with 3 days of schooling on a Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. The subjects that they will need to complete are literacy, numeracy, personal development skills or PDS, work-related skills or WRS, and then one VCE subject elective. On Wednesdays, they will be required to attend TAFE. This is compulsory, and they will need to complete a Certificate 2 or a Certificate 3 course of their choice. And then lastly, they also need to complete a 1-day work placement or a structured workplace learning on a Friday. Students need to find their own structured work placement, and again, it ideally needs to match their certificate course that they are completing at TAFE. Lastly, the final thing that we need to cover here is VETs delivered in secondary schools. So vocational education training delivered in secondary schools involves students completing a certificate course either at Chisholm TAFE, Frankston or Rosebud, at another secondary college, or they can complete one here at school. The two that we offer at the moment are sport and rec and active volunteering. Students who are completing this event in schools needs to also consider that they might also be completing it as an Australian's apprenticeship or traineeship called an SBAT, and this is a real world qualification that they might need to complete their VCE schooling. If you have any questions or concerns about these pathways, please reach out to the Year 11 coordinating